affected.
Western Spring Television, ours it is.
First of all, good morning to my very amiable brother here, Sheyi Omotayo. Thank you most sincerely. I love the way you look up, and when we hook up to make things happen, it's always splendid. Good morning to you all out there, wherever you are, and I'm super excited to be back again. The Monday edition of Morning Spring is here, and here we are again. Definitely, we are going to have you have the very best of time with us right here on this show. You know the deal. And if you're just joining us for the very first time, I'd like to welcome you most sincerely, because why? This is what you have been waiting for. We definitely inform, educate, and entertain you in the very best of ways, in the very best of form. Tunde IDOWU is my name. At Irresistible TD, let's plug in on Twitter. There's quite a whole lot to do, as I say, regularly, because what? It's always booming. There's so much to talk about, right? And definitely you can follow us on our trend here. You can follow us on our social media up here at Western Spring Television. That is on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and Twitter. We are live at Western Spring Television. On behalf of the entire transmission team, my director, my producer, the cameraman, would like to welcome you to Morning Spring, and let's get the show started. First of all, we kick things off from the headlines making the rounds from the papers. There are quite a whole lot of them. My producer has dumped for me on my tab this morning, and we will look at some of the headlines making the rounds. And in the course of this show, 1 year ago, as of yesterday, 16th of July 2022, there was an election. The governorship election here in OSUN State is over a year now. And the election that brought in the governor of OSUN State, His Excellency Senator Ademola Nuruddin Jackson Adeleke, and his party, the People's Democratic Party, taking over from the ruling All Progressive Congress that had former Governor Oyetola here then. But what were the controversies that occurred during the election? And thus far, what have been the achievements of this government, of this administration after 1 year of election? He was actually sworn in 27th day in the month of November 2022. But after the election, what were the things? Have there been dividends of democracy? What were the lessons learned during that period, and how can we go about making things happen in a very, very better way here in our dear state, OSUN State? I'll be joined much later on the program by one of the governor's aides. We will be looking at that. I will be joined via Zoom by another person, and also I will have another policy analyst join me here on the program this morning. So it promises to be super exciting. All you need to do, keep doing what you have to do, and then, hey, let's enjoy the ride together. We'll take a short break. When I return, we'll go straight into details, making the rounds from the papers, and let's talk about it, get to know what's happening as it is right here on Western Spring Television. Take it for a way. Babolo, don't worry. This is for the boys, right? All right, I have about 4 different newspapers with me this morning. I've got the Punch newspaper, which I'll be kicking things off from. The Punch, the Vanguard newspaper, the Guardian, and the Nation newspaper are all with me for today. But let me start things off from the pages of the Punch newspaper for today. Quite a whole lot is attributed to the Punch newspaper here. Let's look at the big banner headline there. Controversy over alleged resignation of APC chairman Adamu. Now, there are two riders, very long riders, associated to that story there. It says, Adamu allegedly forced to resign 2 days before NEC meeting. That's credited to party spokesman Mom. That's him being quiet there. NWC, that's the National Working Committee member. Other sources divided over resignation. Kiari may chair NWC meeting. There seemed to be quite a whole lot of controversy with the APC, just like every other political party these days. There is one thing or the other that is readily available for Nigerians to see, and we keep talking about this week in, week out, virtually on daily basis. You get to find out that there is something. But if you're interested in that full details of that story, please, it's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper, and I bet you it's quite it's credited to virtually all the dailies for today. So you can check it out and let's get to know what's up. Moving further down, that's Mr. President, Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the AU meeting in Nairobi, Kenya. And that's Mr. President, looking at him wearing a native, really portraying the African thing among suits there, the man in suits. So thank you, Mr. President. But there is a headline to that story, to that picture there. It says, resist new scramble for Africa. Tinubu tells AU Forum. Resist new scramble for Africa. Tinubu tells AU. There is a rider there. It says President Bola Tinubu at the 5th, okay, I'm trying to get that, at the 5th year coordination meeting between the African Union, the Regional Economic Communities and Regional Mechanism in Nairobi, Kenya. That was yesterday. All right. We wish the AU very well, and we just hope, please, all African countries and beyond, the needful needs to be done so that we can get the very best of things here in Africa. Africa is blessed, but then leadership has always been a little bit of challenge in our dear country, in our dear nation, in our dear continent as well. But moving further down to the bottom strip of the same daily this morning, 43 million Nigerians shut out of Buhari's cash transfer. That's a report. And I remember that I actually know that will be one period in every Nigerian's life that we will not forget. It was a moment to ponder. It was a moment to really think about quite a whole lot of things, either positively, how to make a headway in one's life, because the cash transfer then was, and the Naira redesign, we all remember what transpired. But be that as it may, here we are. We still got till December 31st before we know what will happen between the old Naira notes, that's the existing one, and the new Naira notes, which we also have in circulation as well. So, well, let's see what will this new administration will do. Probably will continue spending both Naira design, but hey, the ball lies on the table of Mr. President. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Then let's look at the red strip story making the rounds from the Punch newspaper still. NDLEA nabs Europe-bound undergraduates, Lagos lawyer with drugs. How would a lawyer? Seriously, I really don't know. That's why at times you find it difficult to help people take packages from the airport, taking it to probably somewhere in Europe, America, Africa, anywhere, because you don't know what's in there. If it's not a family member, then I see what you're actually giving me. It's really ridiculous and very dangerous. But looking at Europe-bound undergraduates, a Lagos lawyer who were arrested with drugs, who can do all these things, all these nefarious activities is really, really scary right now. If a lawyer can do this, I don't know. Who will stand for him in court? Will he represent himself or what? But then, please, let's do the needful. Stay away from things that will get us embarrassed. Let's do things that will, let's not do things that will put us where we are not supposed to be. I played with us this morning. It's very, very disheartening to see someone in the legal profession that knows the effect that if I am caught, what will transpire, the consequences I will face. But the lawyer never worried about this, and look at where it has landed him. And obviously, I know that the profession will ask him to go withdraw his license or that. Wow. All right, let's move on. World Bank links Lagos building collapse to poor regulation. Not just only Lagos, it's so rampant in Lagos though, but how wish we can get something done. When we have to put the right things, why not let's use the right things at the right time, rather than now have to do things like 2 times, 3 times. Look at the amount, the monies that will have been wasted. You know that this thing requires this inches of iron rod, inches of blocks, or this quantity of cement. Or we rather would prefer to just do shady works, and then we'll go back to start again. Another set of money to be spent. Really, really troubling. Let's move over to the top strip. On the top strip of the Punch newspaper still this morning, IG withdraws mobile policemen from ex-governors, ministers, VIPs. Well, I'm not totally too surprised about this story, because this is something that past IGs have said. We keep seeing them all around. They keep being there. And when Nigeria needs every inch of available police force today, but be that as it may, if this is coming in from the IG, we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll keep looking at it, and we will definitely report when we see certain people still with this set of people. Moving further, NEC may okay tariff hike as electricity subsidy hits 2.8 trillion naira. I'll take that again. NEC may okay tariff hike as electricity subsidy hits 2.8 trillion naira. Wow. Now, I remember some of my analysts, someone like Barrister Moses Obaditon, amongst my other analysts that have been on this show or either on our radio dial as well, stated that these are things the federal government should take cognizance of. This electricity is one essential thing that every business require today. While I was driving through somewhere around town here in Osun State, Osogbo precisely, I think over the weekend, and I remember I saw this this Peugeot warehouse, and I was like, wow, it's down, covered with weeds, bushes, and everything. And I remember back in the 80s, where you have a brand new Peugeot 504, 505. I think it was sold about 1,000 naira or that, about very, very minimum. But to get all those kind of cars these days, do they still manufacture? Not in Nigeria, definitely. But because of electricity, well, these are part of things, the likes of Leland, the likes of Kingsway, Leventis, quite a whole lot. I've actually moved out of Nigeria because of the erratic power supply. And these are businesses that would have generated quite a whole lot of IGLs for the nation, for the state in which they are. But electricity, look at it here. It's saying electricity subsidy hits 2.8 trillion naira. Remember past government, past administration spending a humongous amount of money on power supply. If Nigeria can just be generating this very minute power supply, it's rather disheartening. And I just hope things can be done. A country like Togo, Nigeria, oh God. Wow. Moving further, the last story on the pages, from the pages of the Punch newspaper. Anger as Senate defends 70 billion naira palliative for lawmakers. 70 billion naira palliative for lawmakers, and the federal government, the government is actually planning 8,000 naira. 70 billion, only God knows how much that will get to each of these lawmakers. I foresee this being in millions, but you are planning 8,000 naira for the common man. those of us who voted the set of people in there, those of us who voted Mr. President in there, those of us who voted the members of the House of Reps and Senate in there, and they're looking at 70 billion naira palliative for them. Some few days over the weekend, we heard that the SERAP had written Mr. President that, look, if they dare spend this humongous amount of monies on bulletproof cars, then this calls for worry. Because I wonder if I was probably a lawmaker and I didn't return the official cars given to me, why wouldn't I drop them? Now they have to buy new cars for this set of people again, at the expense of the poor men, the poor masses who are crying day in, day out, who can't even get 500 naira to prepare something to eat. Then you are budgeting this kind of a humongous, very terrible amount of money for lawmakers at this moment in time. It's cause for concern, and I just hope this can be rerouted in the best of ways, so that every Nigerian can actually make a headway. We discussed this in the course of last week, where 12 million households will get 8,000 naira, I beg your pardon, 8,000 naira on a monthly basis. How do they want to channel this money? How do you actually figure out who are those in need of that 8,000 naira? It was stated that 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally in poverty. Now you're looking at just 12 million households out of 133. No, this I don't know. The federal government advisors should probably think clearly at this moment in time. This isn't really the best of time. It's not showcasing people who've got ideas of what to do next, rather than just split 500 billion naira. Why don't you cushion the effect of all the subsidy? Look for better things rather than distribute this money. It's been stated over the weekend, there were reactions towards that. I'm on the platform that they discussed this quite a whole lot. We've discussed it at numerous fora, that look, rather than distribute 8,000 naira, 8,000 naira within 2 days or thereabout, that is gone. And you're planning on doing it on a monthly basis. I'm not sure the advisors are doing the needful at this moment in time. We saw that stuff like this happened during the last administration, trader money, market money, this and this money, sharing 5,000. What would that do in a country where fuel subsidy has just been removed, and all of us have we are resorted, or we've even resorted to buying fuel between 500 naira and 525. It's rather alarming that this is what is being thought about for Nigerians. It's not. I'm not sure this is supposed to be at this moment in time. But let me move on quickly because of time, and moving straight to the pages of the Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard newspaper is next here. On the front page, the big bold caption on the front page of Vanguard newspaper here, it says, subsidy removal. Federal government targets two-pronged relief for workers. And what will they be? One, to provide palliatives, pay 200,000 naira minimum wage, to empower state to pay new wage. If that is going to happen, then I think we will give kudos to the federal government. 200,000 naira minimum wage. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll see what it looks like. And obviously, you can still see it. It's coming to virtually all the papers. Mr. President PBAT alongside heads of presidents of nations, economic set of people from Africa at the AU forum in Nairobi, Kenya yesterday. And not too good for the Naira at the exchange market now. Naira hits new low at 820 Naira to $1 as Forex supply gap persists. 820 Naira to $1. Wow. How can this be resolved? Now it's baffling. It's mind-blowing. It's really, really mind-blowing. All right, we're still coming further down that from the same daily here. Electricity tariff, NEC, 11 discos set for fresh public hearing. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll see what it looks like. And SERAP to Akpabio Abbas, drop plan to spend 110 billion naira on bulletproof cars. I don't know, maybe I'll just keep quiet for a while. 110 billion naira on bulletproof cars. Now, you can feel the fact that the common man, if I put my car on the highway, I'm going to Abuja now, I'll probably be looking left and right, a little bit nervous. God, in your hands I am. Moving over, even within the state, you don't know what could happen. But you are proving about 110 billion naira bulletproof cars for lawmakers. What happened to the other cars that should have been returned by the legislators, lawmakers that didn't return? Those who returned, where are their cars? Why isn't those cars still functional if they ain't functional? Well, this is the way money has just been spent. And I heard somebody had actually said, one of my analysts said in the course of last week, that it's just for public consumption. The monies must have been approved and the cars must have been bought, but now they just want the public to know. So no going back, no return, no surrender. And Nigerians are wailing. Government at all levels, Nigerians are wailing. We are crying. There's so much poverty in the land. People can't afford 3 decent square meal, not just 3 decent meal. I just hope things can be done properly. Things can be done properly. Let's go straight to the other stories making the rounds from Vanguard newspaper, just beside the picture of members of the African Union and our own dear president there yesterday. Adulterated aviation fuel floods Lagos, Kano, Abuja. I'll probably not fly for a while then. And 8,000 naira too small to ease pains of fuel subsidy. That's informal. That's credited to informal sector workers there. And APC crisis, pressure mounts on Adamu Omishori to resign. There's so much brewing up there, but we'll definitely say it as it is when that time comes as well. Let's move to the top strip of the same daily, Vanguard newspaper. Insurgency, military might alone can't solve crisis in Northeast. That's credited to the Vice President Shetima speaking there as well. Yeah, it calls for collaboration. Everyone, even you and I, you need to say it as it is. Let them get the informations that it's needed as at when due. Tinubu affirms Africa's unity, warns against new scramble for continent. Yeah, come together, let there be cohesion, let there be love, let there be harmony. Then the continent can actually flow better. And the last story, okay, not the last, but the other story is still there from the pages of Vanguard newspaper. Illegal firearm charge. Lawyers, activists demand Emefele's immediate release. If it's that, then I think that's just a minute thing, kind of like. Let's charge him to court and let's see what could be done. From the world of sports, from the pages of Vanguard newspaper, 2026 FIFA World Cup. Bruce tips South Africa to qualify ahead of Nigeria. We'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll see what happens at the World Cup that's about to kick off in New Zealand, Australia, New Zealand in the next couple of days, just about 3 days from now, right? We'll see our girls. Go, girls. Let's check out some of the other stories making the rounds from the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian newspaper too has a couple of stories making the rounds. And the big bold caption on the Guardian newspaper, the congesting Lagos ports, cash crunch, investors' apathy, stall $8.5 billion deep sea port project for business-minded people. If you're interested in that story, it's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Then other stories still making the round from that same daily. Why presidents must avoid illegal tenure extension for public officers. There's so many of these public officers, some of them whereby they ought to have resigned or they're retired, beg your pardon. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see if Mr. President will do the needful, and let's just follow the rule, the game as it is right here. Serap urges National Assembly to drop plan for 110 billion naira bulletproof cars. Others, it's credited to virtually all the papers. And just below that same daily, again, cement price hits 6,000 naira over logistic haulage costs. Cement. Anybody who builds a house these days and you start it and you complete it, then I say congratulations to us. Tinubu Obi congratulate the Guardian at 40. Yeah, what a remarkable newspaper. It's been 40 years and moving. On the top strip of that same daily, the Guardian, Tinubu Ruto call for financially autonomous AU, reject fresh scramble for Africa. Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, there. And just beside that same daily, APC NEC, anxiety over resignation of Abdullahi Adamu. That's credited to virtually all the dailies as well. Let me just run through some of the other stories making the rounds from the papers here. Most of them are virtually the same thing, so I'll just run over them, but the same different headlines as it has been put here. All right. Tinubu, Africa must be active to compete globally. That's credited to the Nation newspaper. Moving over to the Nation newspaper this morning, Tinubu, Africa must be active to compete globally. We hope so. Then there's that rider there. It says, leaders pledge commitment to integration, cooperation. Please, it's needed, it's needed, it's needed. And let's please do the needful right here. All right, let me see other stories just beside that picture below. Inflation nears 24% rate, and on the bottom strip, that red column there, more investment in education crucial, says Obi and Imasue Bon. Yep, okay, it's really needed. Education is paramount. We need it. The number of school children, dropout school kids in Nigeria today is alarming, really alarming. And most especially if we go towards the northern part of this country, it's really painful when you see kids turning into our mangeries, and the schools are either destroyed or because of this insurgency. But the government at all levels need to work on education. It's through this education that has brought the likes of all of us. I can stand here and communicate with you. Mr. President can become Mr. President because he went through a channel of called education. So let's do the needful when it comes to education. And just above the picture of members of the AU, which includes our dear President Pibat there as well. There is a story there. Petrol subsidy removal desirable, says APC chair. That's credited to Abdullahi Adamu, the APC chairman there. And on the top strip of the Nation newspaper, President sets to unveil security plan, says Shetima. We are waiting. And $50 million power plant to drive Lagos economy. Lagos is moving, seriously. 50 million power plant to drive Lagos economy. Plants private sector driven. Right. And APC's NEC hold Wednesday. Violence forces Olubadan to suspend a Egungun festival. If you've ever been to Ibadan, you see that festival, Egungun festival, the masquerade festival. That's what it is for our international viewers who are wondering, what's Egungun? Egungun is masquerade in English, right? It's one festival that has that fun, but at times it's been taken over by hoodlums who hijack it and then begin to loot, begin to harass people, flog people, and wow. Then service chief face reps panel. You want to know why? We'll bring it to you as it is once we get the full details. These are some of the headlines making the rounds from the dailies this morning, live on your program, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. And when we return, some of my guests who are around will be here. We'll begin to look at 1 year after the post-election in OSUN State, which actually took place on the 16th of July 2022. The election has come, is gone. It has produced a sitting governor and a new party in the state. They're not too far away. They're familiar with governance. The ruling party now has been in government here before, but at this moment in time, the same party, which was the opposition before the 16th of July, is now the ruling party. That's the People's Democratic Party, ably led by the governor himself, Senator Demola Nuruddin Jackson Adeleke is the governor. Governor Adeleke, 1 year after his election victory, went to the polls and people voted and decided that, look, there is a need for a change, and eventually it produced the PDP and Governor ADELEKE. But then we want to go back in time. What were the challenges that came up during that election? What were the controversies? And looking at ever since Mr. Governor has been sworn in and he's taken over the mantle of leadership in this dear state of ours, what has been his achievements? What were the things he's been able to do? What do he need to do? What are the other things Mr. Governor needs to do to get the state running faster than the way it is? We'll be discussing quite a whole lot in the next couple of minutes when my guests are seated. It's still Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television. Hey, let's plug in and we'll be back very shortly.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazzau, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazzau. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazzau. The 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazzau by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. The Hausa Muslim figure was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazzau, as a brave, smart and talented leader, whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Here are 5 amazing fun facts I bet you never knew about Christianity.
Number 1, there are over 2.4 billion Christians worldwide.
Amazing fun fact number 2. The Bible is one of the best-selling books of all time, with more than 100 million copies sold every year.
Most Christians believe in heaven and hell.
The Bible is the most translated book in the world, with more than 3,000 languages.
Amazing fun fact number 5. Most Christians throw science out of the window without realizing that most scientists are Christians. Hello, I am Pastor Steve Akinwumi.
And I am Dr. ADELEKE Oyewole.
Join us as we highlight and discuss day-to-day issues pertaining to the day-to-day living of every Christian.
Issues in Christendom shows every Sunday on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white suprematists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
All right, thank you most sincerely for being here with us. It's still Morning Spring from Western Spring Television, channels 190 on Star Times. And I've always said this, and I've stated earlier that you can join us also on our YouTube, on our Instagram and Twitter pages, and all our social media handles. You can definitely get to connect with us at Western Spring Television, at Western Spring Television. A year ago, yesterday, 16th of July 2022, we went to the polls right here to choose who will be the governor of OSUN State. And then the state was ruled by the ruling party on the federal level, but they lost the election. After the election, OSUN people said, hey, they wanted a change in governance, and the All Progressive Congress that was actually in power out then lost to the PDP, the People's Democratic Party, ably led by His Excellency Governor ADELEKE. But then we want to take it back a little bit. What were the controversies that surrounded the election last year, and what were the lessons learned then, and how well has the electoral umpire in Nigeria, the Independent National Electoral Commission, how well have they stepped up their game to say that future elections will not repeat the same mistakes that were made, that raised quite a whole lot of controversies at that moment in time. And also we want to look at, ever since Mr. Governor of OSUN State had been sworn in, what have been his achievement? Has this administration been able to bring smiles to the faces of people, the citizens of OSUN State? What have been the impact of this new administration? Are there things to say, hey, the thumbs up for Mr. Governor or the thumbs down for Mr. Governor. And we will be looking at that in the course of this program. And I'm very delighted to have the media assistant to the Osun State Governor, the media assistant on ICT to Osun State Governor, a dear friend and brother, Mr. Shola. Yeah, Mr. Shola, how are you doing? Good morning. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. And also via Zoom, I have a public affairs analyst and a member. He is Mr. Adebayo Adedeji. Good morning to you, Mr. Adedeji, as well.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Gentlemen, let's begin the show here. A year ago, as of yesterday, the election took place here in Adia State, Osun State. Even before then, there were quite a whole lot of tension. There was so much tension as to what will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen. But eventually, the elections came.
Yes.
And a few days, just about 24 hours after we got to hear that the incumbent governor, His Excellency Governor Ademola Nuruddin Jackson Adeleke, won that election, which wasn't a pleasant story for the then ruling party, the All Progressive Congress, even led by Alhaji Isiaq Adegboyega Oyetola. But eventually, it took a whole lot of court cases, went to court, and eventually the Supreme Court brought the matter to bed. But first of all, before we get to that point, let's look at what were the controversies that came up during that election, and how we have fared, how we have moved on after that election in Osun State and in Nigeria. First of all, I want us to look at the aspect of the beavers.
Okay.
Which actually, it was something that it was a major point of a topic at that moment in time. Let me start with Mr. Shola here first. What do you make of the beavers? Because after July that we had the election, we had another election, the general election, February. Mm-hmm. Do you think the beavers has been able to do the needful? Has it come to stay, from your own opinion?
From my opinion, beavers has come to stay.
All right.
What beavers has taken away from our election process is the ability of for some politicians to be manipulative in the process. It takes away the fact that now, before then, there's this method where people just buy voters card from people and all those things. Now, if you have those voters cards with you, it's useless, because now with the beavers, it's the beavers that does the accreditation, the fingerprint, matches your face with it. It does everything that you would need to do is done with the beavers. So there's no way, apart from maybe the ballot paper itself, every other thing is done on the beavers. So there's no way anybody can, to an extent, there's no way anybody would be able to manipulate the process of election anymore with the beavers. Though, of course, there are also challenges. There's no perfect system. There are challenges with beavers, but I'm sure INEC is looking up to updating these devices to ensure that we don't have repetition of issues that we had maybe in Osun, Ekiti, and even in the general election.
Let me, Mr. Adedeji, help us out here. During that period, it was stated that there was poor handling of the beavers by INEC officials, which caused a couple of problems here in Osun State during that election of last year. Do you ascribe to this?
Yes, of course. But, as a Democrat, a deep one at that, I would not like to even talk about it, because talking about it more or less trying to cut the decision of the Supreme Court justice. You understand? Because they have actually ruled about, they have ruled on the matter. And as I said, as a Democrat, we should just let it to lie like that. But given the discussion, the topic for discussion, it is important that at least we can draw some lessons from what actually happened in July 16th.
Yeah.
After that election, the All Progressive Congress went to tribunal to challenge the election of Governor ADELEKE on 2 grounds. Principally, that is academic credential, the academic qualification was faulty, and again that the election of July 16th did not meet the requirements set in the Texas law that that they could not resolve some figures, the number of people that voted that day and the number of people that reflected on the beavers and the figures announced at the end of the ballot. And the also Congress party went to the tribunal, and in the reading of the justices of the tribunal, they said they upheld our argument that one, the election did not meet the requirement of the extant law. Therefore, the elected governor at that time. No, I think Governor ADELEKE has been that Governor ADELEKE should vacate his seat. But Governor ADELEKE went to the appellate court to seek redress, and his proposal was confirmed by the appellate court, because the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court. So as I told you the other time, as a Democrat, it should be seen finally forced in the decision of the Supreme Court, if that's what they like. We are not like some people, that even after 2018 election, when the speaker said Governor ADELEKE did not win the election, up to this moment, Governor ADELEKE team has said that it's was stolen. But we will not join that. We will not go that we are that good. We are Democrats. I've told you. We have moved on. We have prepared for the 2026 election. But going back to what my brother there, ISOLA said, that Viva, has shown some flashes of hope in our electoral system. I beg to differ. Because that last election actually, or let's say the outcome of the last election actually did not give me that kind of hope. Because initially, it was the hope that if anybody should do the magic of, yesterday, that 200 people will be accredited, then at the end of the day, 400 people will be announced as being voted. With the production of Viva, I will not address that again. But unfortunately, the outcome of the litigation, following the 2020 elections, has not really, assured me of any hope. Because I know for a fact, I know for a fact that in some places in OSUN State, many people voted without an explanation.
Actually, that's a claim.
In some places in there, some people voted with ATM card. But as to what actually happened, I've known some lessons or what actually happened. I'm
sure you were there to see that.
All right, okay, Mr. Adele, let me hold on, because we'll try as much as possible to rectify your network and the clarity. He spoke about the fact that he's differing a little bit from the fact that you feel the beavers has come to say.
The presidential election that we saw that he was talking about, the issue wasn't with beavers, the issue was with HIREV, which is the result.
I read the portal.
2 was the handling of the training for the people who were handling the beavers machine was poor. It was poor. So a number of these people who handled our election didn't actually know how to handle these beavers machines. So I don't agree with him saying that a number of people use ATM card to vote, except if we have proof for these things. We should not really continue saying these things, because of course it discredits this entire system. And saying also that Supreme Court had ruled and you agree, then Supreme Court had already ruled against that particular line of thought that people use ATM card to vote. I'm not sure that actually is going to work anywhere. I don't know.
All right, let me find out if it's clearer there. Mr. Adeleje, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Okay, it's clearer. All right, but future elections in Nigeria from your own point of view, do you still think we should still stick with beavers, or should personnel be given 2-3 months training that will handle these beavers to have better, correct analysis and things that has to go right well with this election? But remember that what Nigerians cried wolf about then was the IREF. But what do you make of it? Should the beavers still stay, or INEC should probably do better training for their staff before elections in Nigeria?
You're asking me whether beavers should stay after investing that kind of money on that technology. I want that beavers can be improved upon.
Okay.
The process, involves elections to be improved upon. I believe that technology could actually cure crime and electoral malpractice if handling those the machines or the technology are responsible people. So the elect officers should be better given or should be given better training, in subsequent elections, so that some of the challenges, the encountered in the previous elections, in the series of elections we had in Nigeria, can be improved upon. I elect officers, the emergency officials of the unit, the ad hoc staff should be given more training, on how to handle the technology or the machine.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, let's move on here. During that period, it was stated before the court eventually decided that, look. Do you feel that there was overvoting in about 10 local governments? That's about, about 749 polling units. That's about 10. From your own view, do you feel, the APC as then, we were just looking for excuses?
Until the day that Supreme Court sat, or let me say when the Supreme Court sat finally with the judgment, the final judgment was that overvoting was not proven. The APC in its case wasn't able to prove that there was overvoting. That was why Governor Adeleke won at the Supreme Court. Until we have been proven otherwise, I'm not going to agree that there was overvoting anywhere. Because of course, Supreme Court has said no proof for it. Where is the proof? I mean, if you claim something illegal happened, you were at least supposed to be able to provide a proof on what you claim happened. I think the challenge was that build up to the election, the APC administration and the former Governor ISOLA had lost connection with the people in the state. And what happened in that election was the people of the state coming out to say, we want change, we want a new government, we want to see something different. And that's why the APC was voted out of the government. And a lot of people talk about how the crisis in APC affected this and that. I don't really agree. My opinion is, build up to the election, there was massive registration in Osun State happening. Over 750,000 people registered newly. These guys were not voters, but they've not been voting before. They just registered. In 2018, PDP didn't get up to 300,000 votes in the election. After all the drama that happened, PDP didn't get up to 300,000 in the election. Then, in 2022, PDP got over 400,000. What I see in there is mass mobilization, because in Osun election, we had over almost 50% voter turnout, which is unprecedented, has never happened before. So what I see is PDP doubling efforts in the area of its own strength to be able to ensure that we win in our area of strength and defeat APC even in its own corner. That's what I see happening there.
Mr. Deba, let me ask you something, but let me lay this here. Section 51 of the Nigerian Electoral Act of 2022, which addressed the issue of overvoting, stated that no voter shall vote for more than one candidate or record more than one vote in favor of any candidate at any one election. And I just want to ask Mr. Ishola here, that was one of the things, major things the APC said, that overvoting in about 10 local government areas, about 749 polling units. Do you think that was true at that moment in time, going back 1 year ago?
Yes, I believe. And you know, as an active participant in that election, you know, I'm from the East, and after voting in my polling unit, I, alongside other, you know, members of the party, leaders of the party, visited other polling units to collect the polling units are from.
Oh, I think I lost audio there, but let's just move on. I'm not sure. My directors, are we still running? Because I can't really hear Mr. Adebayo anymore. All right, let me come back to you while we try and rectify that point. There was something I wanted to ask. Now, right after the judgment, the tribunal, first of all, coming in to say, declaring the election null and void, that former Governor Adeleke Oyetola actually won the election, and before the Supreme Court gave its verdict. Do you think such judgments should frighten Nigerians at this moment in time? Because if everything has to go straight to the Supreme Court to eventually decide for us, are we having points at which we should be frightened as a country?
I kind of agree with the school of thought that courts should not decide for us who wins an election. But in cases where we've seen a number of high manipulations, it is very easy for us to want to go to court, because of course that's the only place you can seek redress when there are issues. Take for instance the tribunal judgment in OSUN, in the case of OSUN. Going through the judgment, number one, I fault that decision to claim that they were overvoting. I mean, there was overvoting in 10 local government and almost 749 polling units. That's close to 25% of the voting power in the state. It's as good as saying cancel the entire state vote. So if you nullify 25% of the vote count in the state and claim that then the rest, that's where I personally had an issue with that judgment. And then there was a point of view in that judgment that looks like there was a personal attack on the personality of the incumbent governor, now Governor Adeleke now. When when the judgment says to that governor cannot go lololo and buga, that particular line of judgment makes it look like, oh, the issue really was with his personality. The governor is an enthusiastic person, is an optimistic person, is a joyful person. You can't be around him and be dull. I mean, that's his personality. Do we blame a man for being happy? And then that reflects also in the judgment. So there were a lot of intricacies in that judgment, and so that's the issue. But I agree that we should stick to, if INEC the results coming from INEC would be as credible as we wanted it to be, then we don't need to be going to court to seek redress in this case. But then we have had series of encounters. Look at what happened in Adamawa, for instance, while the resident electoral commissioner was announcing results before the before the state returning officer. So those are the areas where you begin to look for the issues in our election. So if we can have a perfect system running, we would not need to be going to court to seek redress in matters of election.
Let me look at, I don't know, okay, they're still trying to get back across to Mr. Adebayo, but let's look at the party, the PDP thus far. Will you say, I don't want us to be sentimental about this. Over the years, over the couple of months, ever since Mr. Governor has been sworn in and doing his duty as dutifully as it should be, do you think Osun people are pleased with him thus far?
Well, so the truth is, I'll be honest, there is no perfect system anywhere in the world. There will be issues, there will be complications, there will be complaints. But if I would assess so far in the last 8 months, so to say, I rate this administration 80%. in terms of assessment. And honestly speaking, you would ask these questions, I'll say don't ask politicians. Don't even ask civil society organizations. Go and ask the people. People who live in this state. They've been able to see the difference between the previous administration and this administration. So the way I say it, if this administration has been able to do this far in this number of months, then we can say that in the next 3-4 years, Osun will be a better place for it. Of course, it's happening already in the tech space. Osun is being named everywhere. Osun, I mean, now we're talking climate change in Osun. For the first time in history, it's never happened before in the history of Osun that anybody talks about carbon emission control and the rest of them. This is happening in a time of a man, like Dr. Lunoyo said, that was underrated. A man that everybody thought was coming to do nothing and is now placing Osun's name in places where you would not expect it to be. I think we need to give him a kudos.
Well, looking at who the executive governor is, fine young gentleman, but the point here is some of the achievements that they are laying claim to at this moment in time, where things as well, they say government is a continuum, but these are things that the past administration had laid the foundation, that he is now capitalizing on them, and is taking glory for that.
Yeah, let me say that sometimes when I hear things like this, I'm amazed, and I'll give you only one example, and I'll stop talking about it. The administration of Ogbeni Rafa Arugbesola started Oshogbo, Kirun, Ilaudu Road, and the administration of Governor Itola came. That state of road wasn't completed till the 4 years lasted. That, like a road I apply almost every day of my life. And then in the space of the first 100 days of Governor Adeleke, the phase 2 of that project was completed. So if anybody says that he's claiming glory for what he didn't start, I mean, he didn't abandon it. He finished it. There are abandoned projects everywhere in this state. One of them is the one we refer to now as Onababa. The second phase of that road is currently ongoing. That's where I live. The second phase of the road is being done as I speak to you now. I don't think anybody should discredit a man for doing that. I think it's just political statements flying everywhere.
All right, I think I've been told that Mr. Debayo is back. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
Oh, yes. Thank you. All right, thank you. Sorry, while we waited, you went. The network took you away from us. My dear brother, Mr. Shola, we discussed one or two little things which I will want you to react to as well. Looking at the point, as they say, that government is a continuum, it's always continuum, and looking at what the achievement thus far of the administration of Governor Ademola Adeleke at this moment in time. Sir, look, if government is continuing, there were projects that the former governor, Adegboyega Oyetola, couldn't finish, which this administration have concluded, and they've even embarked on others at this moment in time. Now, wouldn't you give him the thumbs up for embarking on those kind of projects that were abandoned, that were never finished during the past administration of Governor Adegboyega Oyetola?
Okay, thank you very much, sir. You want us to give kudos to somebody that did 25% or 20% of the road, and you want us to ignore the person that actually did 70-80% of the road. That is not fair at all. You know, I believe that government should be continual, as we said the other time. You know, it does not really make any economic sense. The project will be initiated, and at the end of the day, hello?
Yes, go ahead. Hello? Go ahead. We can hear you.
It does not make any economic sense that government project will be initiated, and at the end of the day will be abandoned for political feelings. It doesn't make any sense. So I believe that government should continue where the other government stop, the new one can begin from there. But you know, accolades should be well given. Accolades should be well given. You know why we give it to Governor Adeleke that, some pockets of, projects are going on, pockets, I said, are going on, not for flashy. But we are, it's doing about maybe some of the projects left behind by Governor ISOLA, ex-Governor ISOLA. Governor Adeleke should be honorable enough to tell the people that, okay, this is how we met, in this condition we met the road, and this is what we are doing now. So an average OSUN person, we understand the fact that, okay, yeah, they are all partners in progress. That ISOLA did this, so person did this, Governor Adeleke is doing this. But in a situation whereby Governor Adeleke wants to ascribe all the glory to himself, the project that you only see 5% or 10%, he wants to take all the glory. That is not honorable enough. Then another thing I want to say is that, the best way to measure the best metric to measure the achievement of Governor Adeleke is his 5-point agenda, his promise to the people of OSUN State. And what are these points? He says it will make life more meaningful for the workers, that security and life of security of lives and property to be ensured. Then inclusion, that it will accommodate the youth development, it will encourage youth development, and it will encourage women as well. But has he been able to do all these things in the last 8 months? Governor Adeleke just sent in the list of his commissioners to the State Assembly, and from 25 people he sent to the Assembly, just 2 women. So can we call that one inclusion, women inclusion? No. Again, from the list that was sent to the State Assembly last week, no person, no nominee, is less than 40. And by standard, African standard, you cannot call a 40-year-old person a youth. So what it means is that Governor Adeleke has actually blanked the youth in the So on that level, he has failed. On the other aspect, the security of life and property. Do you know, since Governor Adeleke got to power in November 27, no fewer than 25 members of the Action Congress, Progressive Congress of 2 states have been killed. And up to this moment, the members of the CVP might have, an issue with my number. But the fact is that Governor Adeleke has never come out to say, he has never sent his condolences to those people killed. He has never. He looks on as if nothing happened. I think this is a political thing. They want to get back at me. And no, Governor Adeleke has never come out to say, we send our condolences to those people killed, whether APC or PDP, before the election.
Before the election,
that is providing security for life and property. No, I told you I come from Ilesha land, and my area was the worst hit during that election. People were driven out of their home before the election. On the day we were having the election, I was on the field. I was almost killed at that field. Because they believe that you are working for this party, you are working for the joint.
Oh my! I think a little bit of audio issue again, Mr. Adebayo. Please, if you can rectify that, I will be glad so that you can continue with your. Oh no! Okay. Well, oh my no. Let me come back to Mr. Isha. Do you agree with what he has said?
I disagree completely.
I wish, Mr. Adebayo, I'm still going to come back to you. I hope we'll get you clearly. What, you disagree with him?
Completely.
Why?
So let me start from where he stopped about security. I expected him to be able to lay, because we need to move away from the point of reliable source.
Okay, hold on. Okay, Mr. Adebayo, just link up with us like this. I heard you are back online as well. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Right. Are you, so before I bring in Mr. Isola again, you've laid a point, the 5-point agenda of Mr. Governor, and which you are not pleased with, that he's not been able to do quite a whole lot when it comes to the aspect of inclusion. He has just sent a list of 25 to the State House of Assembly, and we just have 2 women. We will deliberate about that as well. And also you spoke about the aspect of security. You're not too pleased because we all know, we all saw what happened during the election about a year ago now. Maiming, killings, destructions, actually were some of the controversies that clouded that election. But Mr. Isola is saying he's not agreeing to what you have said. Please let's let him lay his foundation, then I'll come back to you again. Go ahead, please.
Yes, so I was saying that I disagree because I mean, we need to move away from the point of I heard from reliable sources to have evidence for what I'm saying. Okay. The truth is, I heard him talk about from November 27, then I heard him go to pre-election. Pre-election, Governor Adeleke is not the governor of Osun State. It was governor. It was former Governor Itola. So how do you blame Governor Adeleke for a pre-election matter when at that point Governor Itola was the chief security officer of the state? I don't think we need to model up or meddle up these things. I've actually seen a conversation. What he's saying now is a conversation I had seen on Twitter. In fact, the APC did a Twitter space on this same topic yesterday, and I was wondering why that is the point of conversation at this time. If anybody has an evidence for any of this claim, but until it is proven it's a claim, or for any of this claim, we go to the appropriate quarters to report these claims. And I'm sure investigations will be done, conclusions will be made, and arrests in places where it is necessary to be made. Number 2, the 5-point agenda of the governor. The number 5th one is agro-based industrialization for wealth and job creation for youth and women. 25 commissioners were nominated, 2 of which were women. I'm not certain that his claim about the age of the nominees is appropriate or correct. I wouldn't say I know that, but I'm not sure. Now, how do you claim that because only 2 women were nominated among 25 commissioners, it already means that governor is not going to be able to fulfill his promise of job creation for youth and women in the state? It is too early for anybody to begin to say that. When we started out in November, one of the things that we had done in ICT, for instance, as of today, we're in conversation with Cisco Networking Academy and Google for a number of tech-based certifications courses across the state. So who else will benefit from this if not the youth in the state? So if we now conclude that because of appointment of commissioners, the governor has shut out women and youth in the state, it's because we're taking the matter ahead of the horse. I don't think it's necessary, honestly, if you ask me.
But don't you think that this is needed at this point in time, where you have women as commissioners, more women as commissioners as well? It shows a little bit of balance. Looking at what we have at the State House of Assembly.
That's where I'm going to next. Right. A lot of persons are taking up Governor Adeleke for the Assembly matter, as if he was the one who gave tickets to all the members of the House of Assembly. He wasn't the one who gave them tickets. It was a party affair. It was a decision of the party. Senate, the same thing. House of Rep, the same thing. So we blame Governor Adeleke for this, for having 3 members of the House of having members of Senate, 3 of them who are men, having 9 members of the House of Representatives who are men, having 26 members of the House of Assembly who are men, as if he was the one who picked all of them and gave them tickets. It's not done anywhere in the world. Why blame the man for such a thing? Something he has no decision over. Except if anybody has a proof for it. I don't believe he picked any of this. All of these people I've mentioned. No,
thank you, Mr. Shola. Let me come back to Mr. Adebayo. Looking at 2 women in...
Sorry, before you continue, I need to say that in the composition of the people who work closely with the governor,
yes,
who are all of us who are media assistants, special assistants, we have guys of less than 30 in that circle.
The younger ones.
Just because we are not announced to just assembly and a lot of people don't know us, does not mean, I'm a youth, for instance. There are many of us in that space that work with the governor.
Mr. Dedeji, let me come to you. Your own point of view here that the number of commissioners, as we have them, 2 women amongst the entire list that were sent to the State House of Assembly, how many women would you have suggested that you think it will have really been, good inclusion of women in that role to become commissioners? How many would you have thought should have been?
You know, that is a standard all over the world. That is 75% affirmation all over the world. That whatever government program, you know, women should be included. 75% of the women should be included in whatever program that is being run by God. Even if you don't have the 75% standard, something close to it. So I would have expected that, you know, 4 or 5 people that are not even, they don't have any link, any familiar link with the ADELEKE. You know, 4 or 5 people would have been sufficient. At least we know that, yes, the governor actually respects the women. But in this instance, even when he wanted to go for the women, he went for his sister-in-law. You know, it's sister-in-law. And the other person is the elder sister to a senator. So it means, you know, in OSUN, we are going to have a commissioner and a senator from the same family, the same blood. That is not fair at all. That is not fair at all. So, as I said, 4 or 5 or 6 women would have been good enough. Then another thing, I don't have enough data on the digital revolution Sister ISOLA has talked about, and the government is so I'm not going to dwell on that. You know, I don't want to talk about it. But let us talk about other aspects of Governor Adeleke's promise, and that is accountability to the people of Osun State. Governor Adeleke promised that he will cure corrupt acts of the past government. But under this government, projects have been done without accounting the people of State.
Oh my. I wish
in the last 7 or 6 months, yeah, the work on the project, please. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can. Okay, great.
So, you know, Governor Adeleke promised accountability to the people of Osun, curing corrupt practices of the past government. What is meant by that, I don't know. But at least let us assume that talking about corruption. Now, but under this government, projects have been awarded without telling the people how much it costs. For example, the case of the borehole project have been working on the project in the last 6 months. Up to this moment, the government of Osun State has not told the people how much each of the boreholes cost. They said some of the boreholes were to celebrate the other day Chilopi, and that was the assumption. You know, that was the assumption. We all got that. Okay, yeah, you know, finish all those projects. Up to this moment, none of the projects. None of the borehole is working.
That's not true.
Because maybe some weeks back, it just went to and purchase generator to power all those boreholes. What I have, if they can spend a whole 100 years on the project, that is less of my. But what I have to them is that each project we got from the level of the cost 40 million naira. Each borehole ordinarily that's about 2 million naira. Even how much is the plot of land in Osogbo? With 8 million naira, 10 million naira, in our tenure, 8 million naira will build a renovated a primary excellence, including installation of bulb. Now, just this government, they are building a bulb, they are constructing a bulb is 40 million naira. That is, it doesn't add up. Then another thing is, yes, Mr. Jola is there. You can put it to him that how much does, you know, what is the governor? What is the media assistance governor? If you have the information. I have given you an impression that, yes, media assistance, you know, special assistance, they are more running the government. So if they are more running, so if you have that kind of information, ask him how much the authority government awards involved.
Reliable source.
If you cannot answer you, if you run this committee, then you should know that the government of Governor Adeleke is not sincere. You can put it to him now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Deji. Let me just hold it, because I know that we want to get to push our state further to greater heights. And accountability is obviously needed in anything that one does, even with this corporation of ours as well. When there's certain things that require money, there should be accountability. We've heard that quite a whole lot. I don't want to say hearsay. I don't want to say from social media that somebody I will do something and type and put on social media, then the whole world begins to say, is this true? But looking at taking a cue from some of the things Mr. Adeleke has stated now, we know that during the first 100 days of Mr. Governor, to commemorate that day was like this project, water boreholes and stuff like that. I'm not an engineer, so I don't think I have a borehole in my house. But you guys are close to the governor. You probably have some facts about how much each of these boreholes cost. And knowing fully, it's been stated that they ain't functional, even at today. Okay, so you are. How true is that? This question to ask me how much. I know. I'm laying it because there's something I'm going to ask you right now. If you can answer that. Okay. Just to clear the wind. You see, honestly speaking, I would start by saying that if we have the love of Osun State at heart, absolutely, we should go about spreading narratives that can incite the people against the government. It is erroneous for anybody in the world to think that this government would sink a borehole for 14 million naira. Come on. It's too erroneous. That's a bogus claim. Do you have the facts of how much it was spent? Now, I wouldn't say this is the exact amount that was spent. Okay. Because it's not in my place to state the amount. Okay. Okay. But for anybody to claim that 14 million naira was spent, I can stand here to tell you that's not true. This person claimed from a reliable source. I want to assume that source is within the government. If that's a reliable source, then let them bring out the evidence. Let them bring out the evidence. It's simple. I am from IDOWU, and I know where all the boreholes in IDOWU are sited. They were not, they didn't start functioning at the same time. Of course, because in some communities, the community took it up before the government eventually provided power sources for each of those boreholes. But these boreholes are functioning. And I need to say that the idea of sinking boreholes across the state, while it's been criticized by a lot of people, is only a temporary solution for us to have water provided for the people, while the government is working on rehabilitating all the water works projects that are already existing in the state. I don't think anybody should be criticized for providing alternative solution for people to access water until the final solution is. I mean, all these water works were abandoned in the last administration. They were not touched. Is anybody not seeing all these things? They even claimed that the Elisha water project was abandoned. And I mean, these are bogus claims that nobody has a proof for. It's just people trying to play political games because, of course, you must condemn the government for them to think that you are doing your position appropriately. I don't think it's appropriate. All right, because of our time, let me come straight at Mr. Adebayo. So, looking at the commissioner list once again here, you have two loyalists who worked with former Governor Rauf Aregbesola on this list. What do you make of that, first of all? You know, I want to thank Governor Adeleke for finding them worthy of working with him. You know, it is always very good for a politician to keep his word. You know, after people have worked with you or worked for you, you know, in an election, and when it is, you know, time for reward, you should reward them. I think that is what Governor Adeleke has done in this case. Rewarding those people, you know, some of the APC members that work for him, former Governor Adegbesola's lieutenant, that work, you know, for him during the election. So yeah, that is an evidence that, you know, our claim before the election that some people in the APC were actually working for the PDP. So the top members. Yes, top members. You know, they work for Governor Adeleke. Let me hold you down there, because one of the factional members, factional youth leader of TOP, he was here on my program because of last week, and he said TOP didn't work for Adeleke.
That some people
did not work.
That did not work for Adeleke.
Yes.
Did not work for Adeleke.
Yes.
And just instead, let us take it out with no problem.
But I mean, even Governor Adeleke in his acceptance speech extended his branch to both Governor Itola and Governor Aribeshola. So I'm sure this is they are from Osun State, for Christ's sake.
All right, Mr. Adebayo, go ahead, please.
No, they work for them. You know, if a child, a juvenile, also a political juvenile, also knows that some people work for the PDP. And it's not I. It is now that maybe actually Bola Ahmed become the president, and they are now running CPP up and down from Abuja for political appointment. That's why they are not hiding or easily what they did is past. So, but the fact is that they work for the PDP, and the appointment or nomination of Ojulade, Mr. Dr. B. Ojulade, and attestation of that.
Okay, gentlemen, let me quickly just let's wrap up this way. Was it last week Friday that the anthem and the crest and the flag law stuff was taken to the State House of Assembly? What do you make of that? Remember the anthem? It was former Governor Ralph Aregbesola. It was formerly a thing by Baba Awolowo,
exactly,
and which was in English, but it was fine-tuned into Yoruba, then by His Excellency Ralph Aregbesola. But gentlemen, what do you make of that of that state anthem? Each state, or your state, has got theirs. Ekiti, just like that, we have ours. Theirs. This anthem. We've heard that it's going to stay, but some people are saying it might not, it might. What do you make of that? That anthem, what do you make of it?
The anthem is going to stay.
It's going to stay?
Yes.
Good. The flag, the crest, what are we doing about the crest?
Those are the things that are changing.
And the flag law?
And the flag. The flag, you know, because what we used to have is the Nigerian flag.
Yes.
With our coat of arms in it.
Yes.
Before Governor Aregbesola came and did this brown color thing and the rest of them. And then crest used to be the Nigerian coat of arms. They coated with Osun State government around it before Governor Ralph Aregbesola came. Those are the items that are changing back to his status. And then the reversal of the name, of course, you know, is a court case. I mean, it's the ruling of the Federal High Court that says that Osun State is the duly recognized name of this state and not the state of Osun. So we're going back to Osun State, the state of the living spring. I'm not sure anybody should have an issue with that.
What do you make of that, Mr. Adebayo? The crest and the flag, should it change, or then we can still leave it the way it is?
It's a non-issue, sir. No, I'm more concerned about more constitutional government. Non-issue. I think that will be the first bill the current House of Assembly will be present. That assembly is supposed to be an hallowed chamber. It's not coming to an old chamber. They should be more serious about issues concerning governance.
Okay.
Gentlemen, I want to thank both of you most sincerely. Mr. Shola Ishola, a media assistant on ICT to the Osun State Governor. I want to thank you most sincerely for joining me.
Thank you for having me
on the show this morning.
Thank you.
And also, I want to say a big thank you to Mr. Adebayo Adedeji, a public affairs analyst, and also he's an APC member. I want to thank both of you most sincerely for joining me. And please, let's all just put our heads together. Let's move this state to the greater height that it should be in the place, in the scheme of things. Thank you most sincerely, gentlemen, for being on the show.
Thank you.
And that will be all for this morning. God willing, I'll be back again tomorrow on another edition of the program. But before I go, will you collect $5 million and still go to jail? Say, let me go and cool off as a token. Bumi Abiodun Anibaba is one person who is about to go. But then I'll be here again tomorrow. Thank you most sincerely for being there. Tunde IDOWU is my name. God bless you.
Good afternoon. Man, can you go to prison for 5 billion naira for 5 years?
I'll go.
Why?
I'll not go waiting. I'll go. And some people are going for free. Let me go for a reason.
Are you playing? What type of plane is?
Yeah, still I'll go. I have 4 children. I have to think about them. I will go. If anybody asks me why am I in prison, I say because of 5 billion. Okay, and one renu.
All right. Thank you.
When is it?
Sorry?
When is it happening?
When is what happening?
When am I going to prison? You don't want to collect the money.
You are serious?
You are serious? Come on.
5 years.
5 years.
Wow.
I'm not going to.
Everyone in prison.
Say ya wèrè. Everyone prison. From 5
billion naira.
5 years up to Malo.
5 years imprisonment.
Mo lè lo 500 years imprisonment. 500 billion lẹ́pẹ̀.
Yes.
Ìgbà mélòó lèèyàn fi ń lọ ẹ̀wọ̀n téèyàn fi ń jáde. Ṣé bí oúnjẹ tó bá ṣàjẹun ní èsì. Kò tiẹ̀ sẹ́wọ̀n ẹ̀wọ̀n náà pé o. But ṣé bó sáà lè máa lọ sí wúkọ̀ púntà.
Rédèrèdè. Normal sentence ni mo àwọn òbí yẹn ṣe wúkọ̀ kún bẹ́ẹ̀.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ mi ò sáà ní gbà sọ.
Ẹ máa gbá ṣọ́ọ̀.
Ní kúre. Ẹ di 500 billion yín dání wa.
5 billion sir.
Mi
ok èlé lálẹ́ ìfún tẹlifíṣẹ́.
Kò sí mi ilé sẹ́wọ̀n mi ilé gbà sọ.
Ìwé máa mú ṣe 5 billion ní àbíkọ́ tí wọ́n lọ́dún márùn-ún kí ṣiṣẹ́ máa gbà kọ́ tí ìmọ̀lẹ́ fọ́dún márùn-ún fún 5 billion.
Bàbá ẹ̀ ni wọ́n tì mọ́lẹ̀. Bàbá ẹ̀ ò ní wọ́n tì mọ́lẹ̀. Ká tì mí mọ́lẹ̀ torí 5 billion. Kí n sẹ̀ wọ́n owó hàn. Bóun ni wọ́n sì wá náwó ọ̀hún.
Tẹ́wá ti já ìlẹ́yìn ọdún márùn-ún péré náà ni.
Bàbá ẹ̀ ló máa sẹ̀wọ̀n. Ẹ tọ́jú 5 billion yín.
Èlé lẹ́wà lè gbà tẹlifíṣẹ́ wẹ̀.
Èmi ò lè gbowó sẹ̀wọ̀n. Ilé ọ̀dà.
If they offer you 5 billion naira, listen very well, 5 billion naira, and to be in prison for 5 years, will you take that offer?
Prison, bawo. We love prison. No, 5 years. No, I don't go prison. I stay here. Don't worry. It's fine, really. 5 billion naira. But if I collect 5 billion naira, I can use it to bribe some people and get out of prison. Yes, Mama. Is this man that is asking me question? 3 musketeers. He's asking me, Auntie Kate. Oh, Auntie Kate. Will you stay in prison for 5 years or collect 5 billion naira?
What? Will I stay in prison for 5 years or collect 5 billion naira?
5 billion naira.
5 billion naira or stay in prison?
Yes, for 5 years.
5 billion.
They'll give you 5 billion, but you have to stay in prison for 5 years.
But I have to stay in prison for 5 years. I'll stay.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be showing on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
and your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
On this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's